They say you stop hearing a person's voice after a while, that memories fade like photographs left in the sun. But I still heard her. Every night. Sometimes it was her laugh echoing down the hallway. Sometimes it was just a whisper through the static of my lab monitors, like her voice had gotten tangled in the data streams. People told me it was grief. Delusion. Maybe they were right. But grief doesn't leave fingerprints on Rift sensors. That night, the city outside glowed the color of a dying star, sickly orange, streaked with the cold blue of aerial patrols. I was sitting in Lab 4B long past shift hours, alone with the hum of the machines. Most people at the IRB went home when the mainframe powered down at 2100. I stayed behind. That's when the anomalies came. It started as a flicker on the Rift monitor. Just noise at first, quantum static. But then the signature came through. A clean, impossible spike. Human neural activity. But not just any pattern. It was hers. Elena. I froze. My coffee went cold in my hand. The neural ID on the screen matched her last known scan from 10 years ago, the day she vanished during the Rift 9 test. The scan had been declared corrupted. Lost. They'd told me her body had likely been disintegrated in the Rift collapse. But here it was again. I ran the data twice. 3 times. No change. It was like the Rift had echoed her back to me a decade later. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I pulled every archived reading from the past 6 months. Most showed standard baseline pulses, noise from the Martian comm grid or atmospheric glitches. But woven through them, faint and rhythmic, was that same neural fingerprint. Like a signal. Or a message. The next day, I confronted Director Cass. She listened with that same empty smile she always gave when she was about to bury something. "Robert," she said, "you're chasing ghosts." Maybe I was. But ghosts don't send video files. 2 nights later, an encrypted message arrived on my personal terminal. No sender. No subject. Just a file labeled Sigma-6. I shouldn't have opened it. That's what protocol says. But I did. The video was grainy like old Earth surveillance footage. The timestamp was recent. She was walking through a crowded street, different architecture, different signage. But it was Elena. Same walk. Same half-tucked hair behind one ear. She looked older. Harder. But alive. I paused the footage. Zoomed in. It wasn't some alternate dimension lookalike. Not a hallucination. It was her. And behind her, just for a second, the camera caught the corner of a building. I recognized it instantly. Central Spire, Neo-Atlanta. Only it wasn't the Neo-Atlanta I knew. The spire was covered in vines, and the skyline behind it was darker, more jagged. A mirror world. Terra Sigma. We weren't supposed to talk about it. The IRB denied it even existed. Officially, the Quantum Rift project had ended 5 years ago. But I knew better. I'd worked on the early models. Helped build the prototype that cracked the first dimensional fold. I knew what we had opened. And I knew the rift hadn't collapsed like they claimed. It had opened something. And now it was opening again. I leaned back in my chair, pulse racing. I wasn't just chasing ghosts anymore. Elena was alive. And she was trying to reach me. This wasn't theory. This wasn't math on a whiteboard. This was real. And I was going to bring her back. Or follow her into whatever world had taken her. The chamber hissed as the last seal disengaged behind me. I stood alone, one trembling hand on the console, the other tightening around a worn photo of Elena. The walls shimmered with pale blue light, the hum of the rift generator pulsing in my chest like a second heartbeat. My heartbeat. I looked at the photo one last time. Her eyes were half laughing, like she'd just said something too smart for me to understand. That picture was 10 years old. The day she disappeared. The day the world lost color. I burned the image into memory, slipped it into my coat, and activated the sequence. The room warped. The floor bent upward like liquid metal. The ceiling pulled itself into a spiral. I felt my body split and stretch, like I was being peeled away from myself. Cold light shot through my veins. My skin buzzed. And then, silence. I blinked. I was standing on a street that looked exactly like the one behind the IRB facility. Same crumbling sidewalk. Same leaning street lamp flickering in a pattern no one ever bothered to fix. But it was quiet. Too quiet. Neo-Atlanta was never this still. No wind. No voices. Just the distant echo of something, like my own breath coming back to me a moment too late. I reached up and touched my face. Still me. Still Robert Hale. The air smelled different here. Clean, almost sterile. The sky above was cloudless, tinged with an unnatural turquoise haze. As I walked toward the city's center, I noticed subtle changes. The traffic lights blinked in unfamiliar rhythms. The buildings were smoother, glassier, like they'd never been touched by weather or graffiti or time. Then I saw the people. They wore familiar clothes, moved in familiar ways. But their faces held a strange calmness. A blankness, like everyone was in on a joke they refused to share. I tried to blend in, kept my head down, walked fast. I didn't have a plan beyond this. Just a location. Elena had been seen near the tower, Terra Sigma's version of the IRB. But here it was called something else, the Array Foundation. The name alone made my stomach twist. As I approached the mirrored tower, something else caught my eye. A man. Tall. Square jaw. Salt and pepper hair. He stood across the street, watching me with narrowed eyes. Michael. I froze mid-step. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stood there like a statue that had been waiting for years. It couldn't be. Michael Thorne was dead. I saw the report myself. Shuttle malfunction. Debris scattered across orbit. Identified by DNA fragments. That was 5 years ago. But there he was alive. Breathing. Watching me like he'd expected me all along. Before I could move, a siren broke the silence, sharp and mechanical, not like anything from Earth Prime. Michael turned and vanished into the crowd, his coat snapping behind him like a whisper. I ran after him, shoved past strangers who stared but said nothing. My breath came hard and fast. The streets twisted around me, paths familiar and foreign at once. Every step felt like a memory I hadn't made yet. I lost him near a tram station that ran beneath the city. The crowd swallowed him whole. Damn it. I leaned against a wall, trying to steady my thoughts. That was him. It had to be. Michael Thorne wasn't just alive, he was here in Terra Sigma. And if he was here, what else was possible? A sound made me freeze. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. I turned. Standing behind me was a woman. Her hair was darker now. Her eyes sharper. She wore a black coat with a silver insignia stitched on the shoulder, 2 intersecting spirals. She looked like she hadn't aged a day. Elena? I breathed. She stared at me. No expression. No warmth. Her voice was low, careful. You're not supposed to be here, Robert. And just like that, my entire world tilted. Not because I had found her, but because I couldn't tell if she was happy to see me, or afraid. I didn't expect the mirror to breathe. But when I walked into that room, quiet, sterile, humming with soft blue light, I saw myself standing there. And for a moment, I swore he inhaled before I did. He looked like me, of course. Same height. Same hair, though his was neater, like he had somewhere to be. The same tired eyes, except his didn't carry the same weight behind them. No sleepless nights. No empty bed. No 10 years of scanning static for a ghost. I stood at the threshold, my hand still on the doorframe. My other self stood by a wide window that looked out over the city. Terra Sigma, they called it. It looked like Neo-Atlanta, but softer, more balanced somehow. Less crowded. More trees. Even the smog smelled cleaner. I hated how much I liked it. He turned and smiled at me like an old friend. I was wondering when you'd show up, he said. You knew I was coming? I hoped. You've always been the curious one. I took a step in. The door sealed behind me with a hiss. The room was empty except for us, 2 versions of one man, standing in the same space but from different lives. You don't look surprised, I said. He shrugged. Because I've been where you are. Grief-stricken. Alone. Then I crossed over, and everything changed. I stared at him. You crossed over? From my Earth? No, he said gently. I was born here. Just like you were born there. But I found a way to see across the rift. I watched you for years. It was like watching myself through a dirty window, one I couldn't clean. But I saw what you lost. I saw what you became. He walked to a sleek, glass table and poured water from a pitcher. No sound, not even the clink of ice. Everything here was too quiet, too perfect. Elena's alive, I said. In this world. He nodded. She is. And you're with her? Another nod. It hurt more than I expected. Like a punch to the chest from someone who knew exactly where to aim. I need to see her, I said. She's not yours, he said. Not unkindly. Just plainly. She's mine. No, I snapped. She's herself. She can choose. He looked away, and for a second I saw something crack in him. Maybe he wasn't as whole as he seemed. Maybe even in this smoother world, love still had edges. She'll see you, he said finally. She asked to. A beat passed. But don't ask her to come with you, he added. She won't. She made her choice years ago. I didn't answer. I didn't trust my voice. He walked back to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over Terra Sigma's skyline. Tall buildings caught the light like polished bones. You don't have to stop this, he said. The merge could work. Michael knows what he's doing. Michael's insane, I said. He's playing God with both our realities. He's giving us a second chance, he replied. A better version of everything. No more broken worlds. Just one perfect one. I shook my head. You don't understand what he's risking. Billions of lives. The collapse. The paradox ripple effect. The dimensional overlap. I understand it better than you think, he cut in. And I've decided it's worth it. I stared at him for a long time. Not because I needed to see him, but because I needed to see me. The man I might have been. The man who kept his wife, who didn't break, who found comfort in lies. And for the first time since crossing over, I realized this place might be more dangerous than I thought. Not because of the science. Not because of Michael. But because it offered me everything I wanted. And it wanted something in return. The door behind me hissed open. A new voice spoke, soft, familiar. Robert? I turned. And there she was. Elena. Alive. Alive. But in her eyes, I wasn't the man she remembered. And in mine, she was someone I was terrified to lose all over again. They dragged me through the hallways of a place that looked too much like my own lab, yet felt like a stranger's nightmare. Same steel walls, same humming lights above, same faint chemical scent in the air, but colder, sharper, as if the place itself knew what it was being used for. I was bleeding from my temple, my vision blurred at the edges, but I kept my feet moving. The guards didn't speak. They didn't need to. I'd seen the plans. I knew what they were building. What I didn't know, what I couldn't believe, was how far Michael had gone. They threw me into a holding cell. No windows. Just metal walls and a single chair bolted to the floor. I sat on the edge of it, wiping blood from my face, and let my mind replay the last few hours like broken film. Elena's voice. My own face, his face, telling me I didn't belong here. And Michael still alive, still speaking in riddles like he used to in our university lectures, only now the riddles had teeth. He called it evolution. He said that to survive, we must become more than singular. He meant convergence. The collapse of both Earths into one hybrid existence. And the deaths that came with it? Necessary casualties. Side effects of transcendence. I was still staring at the wall when the door slid open. He walked in like he owned the room. Same old confident stride, hands behind his back, long coat swaying just a little. He didn't look like a madman. He looked like a man who believed in something deeply, horribly right. Robert, he said like we were about to share coffee. You're earlier than I expected. I said nothing. He stepped closer, pausing just short of the cell's center. You saw the array? I saw it, I muttered. You're going to rip the sky open, Michael. He smiled faintly, almost wistful. We're not tearing anything. We're completing it. I stood. You're going to kill millions. Only if we cling to old definitions of identity. This merging, it's the next leap. Like fire. Like language. Like spaceflight. You think you're a god. No, he said, tilting his head. I think I'm just the first to stop pretending we're alone. I laughed sharp, bitter. You want to overwrite reality. Burn one world into another. No. I want to free us from this cage. You've seen the fractures, Robert. You've felt them. The universes are diverging. Soon, they'll drift beyond reach forever. This is the last moment they're close enough to touch. And your answer is to force them into one? He stepped closer, eyes glowing with a fervor that frightened me more than anything else in this place. Why should we suffer alone when we can be whole? Don't you want that? Elena, she understands. My heart jumped. He saw it. She stayed, he said softly. She chose this world. Chose me. Liar, I thought. But it hurt because part of me feared it might be true. She wouldn't agree to genocide. She doesn't see it as genocide. She sees it as healing. Don't you want her back? He took another step. You could stay, Robert. This place, this version of Earth, it has room for you. For both of you. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to silence the war inside me. My grief, my rage, my need to see her again, whole and alive. And then I opened them. Clear. I didn't come here to find peace, I said. I came to stop you. He smiled again, but this time there was sadness in it. Then we've both made our choices. 2 guards stepped in. Michael turned without another word and left. As they hauled me away again, I realized what was coming. The convergence array was almost ready. Once activated, there'd be no turning back. It would pull both Earths into one unstable reality, a violent, chaotic fusion that would annihilate anything that didn't align perfectly. People, cities, memories. I had one chance left. If I could reach the core, I might be able to rewrite the cascade logic. Not stop it, maybe, but break it, scatter the collapse, force the rift to snap shut. Of course, I'd die. But maybe I already had, 10 years ago when Elena vanished. This version of me, the broken, desperate one, had nothing left but a promise. And I was ready to keep it. The silence in my cell was a kind I hadn't heard in years. Not the absence of sound, but the kind that presses against your ears, your thoughts, like something is holding its breath just outside the walls. It reminded me of the moment just before Elena vanished 10 years ago. The moment the world changed, and I hadn't realized yet how deep the break would go. I sat on the cold floor, knees to my chest, staring at the flickering light strip along the ceiling. It buzzed once every few seconds. It was the only sound. That and my breathing. I had no idea how long I'd been here, hours, maybe days. Time felt strange in this place, like the air didn't quite know which reality it belonged to. The door hissed open without warning. I stood, expecting guards. Instead, a woman stepped in. Tall, short red hair, angular face. I recognized her from the lab logs I'd stolen earlier. Dr. Amira Kess, one of the lead researchers in Terra Sigma before the Order took control. She looked at me like I was both a threat and a last hope. "You're not him," she said. Her voice was sharp but low, like she didn't want the walls to hear. "No," I said. "I'm the original." She nodded. "Come with me." We moved fast through narrow metal corridors lit by dim red emergency lights. Alarms had been disabled. Either the system was blind to her movement, or someone had rewritten the rules. "Where are we going?" I asked, keeping pace. "To what's left of our resistance." Outside, the sky above Terra Sigma looked bruised. Thick violet clouds swirled unnaturally, the atmosphere flickering like glass under stress. My stomach clenched every time I saw a ripple tear through the skyline. It was happening faster now, our worlds leaking into each other. Amira drove a small magnetic rover through the shattered outskirts of the city. We passed through what looked like versions of buildings from my Earth, but melted, twisted, or mirrored. Trees grew upside down in some places. Traffic lights blinked colors that didn't exist. How long until the convergence? I asked. Hours. Maybe less. Thorns accelerating it. What about Elena? I couldn't help myself. Amira glanced at me. She made her choice. This isn't about one person anymore. We reached the ruins of an old transport hub. Deep inside its collapsed structure, beneath what used to be a maintenance shaft, a new kind of lab was hidden, roughly built, humming with repurposed tech, manned by people in tattered research uniforms. Some stared at me like they'd seen a ghost. Others didn't look at all, too focused on their instruments, which blinked in frantic patterns. A tall man approached and offered his hand. His left eye had been replaced by a mechanical lens. "I'm Jace. You're the one from Prime Earth, right?" I shook his hand. "Robert Hale." Jace turned to a cracked glass wall that showed a real-time image of the convergence array, looming on the edge of the city like a tower built by gods who hated balance. At its peak, a pulsating orb of energy flared brighter with each second, warping the air around it. "That's where it ends," he said. "Or begins. And you plan to stop it?" "We plan to die trying," he said, not flinching. I looked closer at the readouts. Their plan was crude but possible. Overload the core using a feedback loop from both Earth's quantum signatures. But it needed a perfect match, someone who existed in both worlds. Someone with the same DNA on both sides of the rift. "You need me," I said. "Or your double. But he's guarding the array." I closed my eyes. "Then I'll have to become him." They prepped me in silence. A synthetic ID, matching uniform, fake credentials from Terra Robert. It was strange, dressing like myself but not quite. Like wearing another man's skin who happened to wear yours. Before I left, Amira placed a hand on my shoulder. "You know what's at stake?" "Everything," I said. Her voice softened. "We lost people. Good people. Trying to stop this. You have one shot. I won't fail." But before I stepped onto the transport sled that would carry me to the array, I saw her. Elena. Standing just outside the shadows, hair pulled back, eyes shimmering. She looked exactly like the memory I'd held for a decade. And yet, something in her was different. Stronger. Wiser. Worn by a world I didn't live in. "I thought I might find you here," she said. I took a step toward her. "You knew they'd help me?" "I hoped." There was a pause between us, heavy and uncertain. "You don't have to stop it," she said. You could stay. Live here. With me. Let the worlds become one. We'd have a chance. No, I said quietly. We wouldn't. We'd have an echo. Not a life. She nodded. Slowly. No tears, just quiet understanding. Goodbye, Robert, she said. I stepped onto the sled and didn't look back. As it roared toward the core, the sky split above me like a cracked mirror, and I knew this was the last time I would ever see her. And maybe, just maybe, that was the only way to save what remained of either world. The sky didn't tear like paper. It cracked like glass. At first, it was a thin line above the convergence array, a flicker, a pulse like the shimmer of heat above metal. But then it widened. Slowly, horribly, like something breathing in after holding its breath for too long. I watched the stars fold in half. The ground trembled beneath my boots as I climbed the final steps of the central tower. The reinforced steel beneath me groaned. Everything about this place was humming, alive and angry. Blue light pulsed along the array's curved spires, reaching high into the sky like open fingers trying to grasp the heavens. I had minutes, maybe less. My heart pounded like it wanted to break free. My lungs were on fire. Each step felt like walking through thick water. I knew what was happening. The realities were beginning to merge. Not gently. Not cleanly. They were smashing together like waves against jagged rocks. Screams echoed from below, some human, some not. I didn't look down. I didn't want to see what was becoming of the people who stood too close to their counterparts from the other side. Two versions of the same soul couldn't survive in the same place. The math never worked. It never would. I burst into the control chamber, gasping for breath. And there he was, Michael Thorne, standing tall, hands behind his back, facing the convergence as if it were a sunrise. His coat whipped around him in the wind pouring in through the shattered windows. You're too late, Robert, he said calmly, not turning. It's beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful? I spat the word. You're ripping the world apart. He turned then, slowly, as if time still obeyed him. His eyes glowed with purpose, almost reverence. Not apart, he said. Together. A rift shimmered behind him, and for a second, I saw another version of myself. Broken. Laughing. Then it blinked out. Look at it, Michael whispered. The veil is gone. We've outgrown our universe. This is evolution. No, I said, stepping forward. This is murder. He smiled sadly, almost like a teacher disappointed in his best student. Still thinking in binaries. Life or death. Win or lose. You haven't changed. I have, I said. I just still know right from wrong. I reached for the device in my coat pocket, the disruptor. A single press would trigger a loop through the array's heart, destabilizing the core, causing it to collapse in on itself. Not neat. Not safe. But enough to stop this madness. Michael's eyes dropped to my hand. You won't do it, he said. Elena's in there. You saw her. You felt her. She's alive, Robert. My hand shook. He stepped closer. She wanted you to stay. She chose this world. She chose me. If you do this, she's gone. Forever. Silence. Outside, two birds collided midair and vanished in a flash of light. I thought of Elena. Her voice in the dark. Her hand in mine. That half-smile when she said my name. But I also thought of the children on both sides. The ones who would die. The cities that would vanish. The billions who never asked for this. I'm sorry, I said, my thumb pressing down. Michael lunged, screaming, but he was too late. The array buckled. A sound exploded through the air like thunder in reverse. Light spilled out in every direction, twisting, warping, bleeding through the seams of reality. I was thrown to the ground as the entire chamber cracked open. Michael's scream was the last thing I heard from him. It stretched and tore and faded into silence. I lay there, blinking at the broken sky. The rift was closing. Slowly. Piece by piece. The light dimmed. The wind died. And then I saw her. Elena. Standing at the edge of the collapse. Her hair flowing behind her, eyes locked on mine. I reached toward her, blood dripping from my hand. She smiled. Soft. Sad. I understand, she mouthed. Then she was gone. The sky sealed. The world was whole again. I lay in the stillness, staring at the ceiling of the now-dead chamber. The only sound left was my own breath. I had saved the world. Just not the one I wanted. I never thought saving the world would feel like losing everything. The moment I stepped through the portal back into my own Earth, the air tasted different, thicker, heavier with silence. No flashing alarms, no frantic voices. Just the steady hum of the lab's machines as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I walked slowly down the long corridor of the Interdimensional Research Bureau, my footsteps echoing against cold steel walls. The faces around me were cautious, guarded. They saw a man return from the brink, but carried a burden heavier than any physical wound. They called it a success. The convergence had been stopped. Both Earths were safe from collapse. But I knew what it had cost. Elena was gone. The truth was buried beneath layers of classified reports and government lies. They sanitized the story, made it neat and tidy, but I knew the chaos we'd witnessed in Terra Sigma, the fragments of two realities ripping apart, would haunt me forever. Sitting alone in my old office, I stared at the faded photo taped to my desk, Elena's smile, frozen in time. Somewhere in a parallel world, she was still alive. She had chosen that world over this one, and I couldn't follow her. I closed my eyes and remembered her voice, soft but steady, urging me to let the merge happen, to believe in a better future born from destruction. I had chosen the future, but it felt like I'd chosen solitude instead. Days passed in a blur. Scientists whispered about new protocols, sealed portals, and the end of dangerous experiments. But I knew the multiverse was out there, stretching infinitely beyond our reach. Worlds that mirrored ours, worlds that diverged, worlds waiting with answers and questions we were never ready to face. One evening, I found myself standing before the sealed rift chamber, a colossal metal door, cold and unyielding. I placed my hand against it, feeling the faint vibration beneath the surface. And then, just for a heartbeat, a whisper stirred in the static, like a ghost calling my name. It was an echo from Terra Sigma, a reminder that no matter how far apart we stand, some connections never truly break. I turned away, breathing in the quiet, knowing that my story, and the story of two Earths, was far from over. But for now, I was alone with the silence between worlds.